Hey everybody, welcome back to Destination Truth. I've been thinking a lot about what's happening in South Africa, and something came up tonight. I'm not gonna have time to make a video, and I really do want to make more content this year, so I'm going to start using live streams like this in order to get some of my content out. And I do intend to take the time to make another video about South Africa. So as you may or may not know, in the late 17th century, so I think 1670s, 1680s, the Dutch made a colony in South Africa, and at the time the land was largely uninhabited. There's a hunter-gatherer society of pretty much Indians that are sometimes called Khoi people, and their population was extremely low, and they did not go to war or anything with the Dutch, but instead a different African group related to the Zulus came down later and killed many of these Khoi people. And still to this day, the majority of people living in Africa identify with this group of people that came down from other parts of Africa that killed the Khois. They still to this day are very racist, not just against whites, but in fact against the Khoi people, which is something new that I learned, which is kind of funny. So this is about impending doom of the white Afrikaners that are still alive in South Africa. So the news here is that the South African the president of South Africa, and as I say this, just imagine what would happen if Trump said something like this. And I'm not saying he will, because I personally do not believe he's racist at all, and there's overwhelming evidence that he is not. Hold on, folks. I am about to lose reception for sure. There's no way that you guys can still see this. I'm sure. No way. Very bad. Right now, everyone. So, if it's still recording, I'm in a tunnel. I apologize. I'll be out of it soon. I don't think I should even bother talking during this part. No, I don't think I should even bother uploading this. I don't know. Alright, well, we will see how this ends up working out. Nonetheless, alright, so I'm back. Sorry about that. That was a tunnel. Get around it. But so this is the problem. The South African president has announced that the government will be confiscating all property from whites without compensation. This is literally Hitler-esque. This is Adolf Hitler to the Jews. Literally. It is. There's no way around it. I don't think even you can say that the Jewish Israelites have done this. They did what the Americans did, which is round up the undesirables and put them in basically camps or reservations, Indian reservations in the case of the United States. Which, if you didn't know, Hitler praised the way that America did this, and that was the blueprint of ghettos that he made for the Jews. But you know, that we all know that didn't work out too well, did it? Anyways, so the president announces confiscation of all white lands without compensation. This is Adolf Hitler against the Jews again. And as you might guess, the white people get kind of scared about that, and they say, well, I think we've been passive for long enough. I think it's time that we start protesting. So they put on a big protest. And then another African leader, I forget this one's name, but I don't believe it was the president this time. I don't believe it was. Maybe it was. In my second video on this subject, I will clarify on this. But he announces that white people are no longer allowed to protest or to organize like that. And if they do protest in a large group like that again, that they will never forget the repercussions. This is a direct threat. This is literally him saying, if you do that, we're going to attack you full force, military style. Something I also did not know that I recently just learned is that over the last like 10 years, not just recent times, but like over the last 10 years, there has been programs teaching children in South Africa, which according to, I was under the impression that South Africa was among the most civilized countries in Africa. And yet there were children being put in basically training camps. This is starting to sound like a terrorist group, like Al-Qaeda or something, but training camps for battling whites. I mean, they have geared up for genocide, and this is it. This is it, guys. So a lot of the people on the white side do believe genocide is coming their way, and they are making preparations now. Many of them have also been fired because another nail in the coffin stated that because whites or Afrikaners are literally only about 7 to 9% of the population in South Africa. I think the current statistics states it at 9, but I've seen other statistics that are not that old that say it was at 9. So even the official figure is 7% though. 7% is the official figure. So the government said, okay, well, all employers, you can no longer employ more than 7% of your workforce as white people. Meaning, let's say you have 100 employees, you cannot have more than 7 white employees. It is now illegal. And if you do so, you will not be allowed to receive state funding. So if you are a government institution, let's say the water treatment plant, that's government, you can no longer employ more than 7 white people per 100 employees. Now the big problem with this, and I mean, I hate nature sometimes because nature is not fair. Life isn't fair, but that's okay. Honestly, it's okay. That's life. You gotta accept life sometimes. You gotta accept nature. And nature has stated time and time again, matter-of-factually, and never been disproven, that by and by, at large in Africa, what seems to be the average IQ in Africa is around 70. Whites are around 105. Asians, I believe, are a whole standard deviation above whites as well, around 115 to 120. Those are huge differences. And if you want to be a collectivist for a second, I hate collectivism, I'm against it, but if we can't be individuals for a moment, then you have to understand, without glorifying prominent individuals, then you realize by and by, at large, low IQ people are prone to criminality, use of violence, and not using rational thinking in general to make decisions. So after firing so many people, so many white people that are highly educated and by and by are more intelligent folk, this means that bad shit's on the horizon. And I've got 2 examples now of bad shit on the horizon. One, Cape Town. Cape Town in South Africa is a huge city. We're talking LA size. Huge city. And they're gonna be having water shortages as soon as June or July, I have read. June or July this year, they're going to have water cutoffs, meaning for a day at a time, they will literally cut off the water. So there will be no tap water sources and you will be forced to buy or find your own bottled water or other means of staying hydrated and not dying. So that's pretty fascinating. But guess what? I also, thanks to a podcast I listened to, there's also a whole nother huge city that's more like San Diego size, a smaller but another big city. That city is named Port Elizabeth, also South Africa. Both of these cities risk having massive water shortages this year alone. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. I mean, at least in California, we've had a horrendous drought, and last year we got the water that we thought we needed to recover, but this year looks awful. This year, we've gotten very little water already so far this winter. This winter is come and gone. It's February, and it's the warmest February we've had in history. I mean, I'm an Aquarius. My birthday just passed recently, and I can tell you right now, I have never seen so many beautiful sunny days around my birthday. And I love the rain. I really do. So, you know, I gotta say it's bittersweet. It's like, you know, you're gonna get sunny days every year no matter what, living in the Bay Area. So I don't really even care. But point being is the drought's bad here, but we have water because we have intelligent people using pipelines to get us water from the mountains and even from other places such as Canada if need be. If need be, we could in fact buy water and have it sent down here by pipeline. So right now I don't believe that's actually a possibility, but it's been discussed. I've read about it. Alright, so we've already talked about all that. I just want to say the last thing is my heart goes out to Afrikaners. You know, as stupid as they are, the band Die Antwoord is something that got me to pay a little bit more attention to South Afrikaner culture, and I think they've really made their own culture, and it's really a beautiful thing, I would say. The culture down there is just awesome. District 9, the movie as well, they made an excellent film. That was not done entirely by, oh, it's rotating. That was not done by Hollywood folk. It was an Afrikaner production, basically, for the most part. Yeah, I should say South African production. But point being is they have a beautiful culture, and people need to identify that this is a large group of people. 7% of the total population in South Africa is still a large number. We're talking millions. And for some really stupid reason, because of the racism of the blacks in South Africa, it is literally more dangerous to be a white Afrikaner farmer in South Africa than to be a drug dealer in Chicago. I mean, maybe you don't know the statistics, but being a drug dealer in Chicago is not the safest line of work, and yet it's more dangerous to be a farmer in South Africa if you're white. And what I mean by this is these people, the government's covering it up. They stopped taking statistics on it over a year ago, and they're covering up brutal murders, rapes, basically genocide, as failed robberies, even though there's been numerous accounts where nothing was taken except, you know, the mother and the children as young as 3-year-old girls were brutally raped, eyes gouged out, fathers basically crucified, nailed to wood, and tortured. And this is going on all the time. Lauren Southern just recently got back from South Africa. She did an excellent documentary that's not out yet. It'll be out soon, I hope, because we're looking at a potential history in the world. If it was up to me, I would send in the UN. Literally, this is an actual noble use of why the Afrikaners are currently they currently have the moral high ground. They've done relatively nothing wrong, except during the apartheid, which I need to do more research into, granted. During the apartheid, they did have, for a minority group, they had way too much power. Way too much power for a minority group. So I accept that that is a fault on them. However, they've also found plenty of actual black South Africans saying that the times to be in South Africa were way better under the apartheid. It was safer, the police actually did their jobs, and government systems worked, the trains ran on time, and so on and so forth. So, you know, what's happening in South Africa is really scary, and, you know, there's not much more I can say about it, but we're looking at a potential future of real genocide in the 21st century of white people, and if it works, it will be a blueprint for globalists to do in other countries. Obviously, the roads have been paved here in the United States. Currently, white people still are the super majority, and if something like that happens here, I hate to say it, but as weak as white people are, and as many soy boys we have, the vast majority of us are not soy boys. And you know, I love America, I love my people, and unfortunately I've been red-pilled enough to know that by and by the liberals have kept black people in this country as voter slaves, and you know, we're paying them to do it. We are, all of us, we're paying them to get their free handouts to do nothing but reproduce and be votes. So that's all that the left has been using them for. And unless the blacks wake up, even though more of them are pro-Trump than any other Republican probably since Abraham Lincoln, you know, that's not enough. The vast majority of them have not woken up, and they never will. I really don't think. Not when there's a culture when if you stop talking like them, using poor grammar and a weird dialect, no matter what part of the country you're in, if you stop doing that, or if you start talking like a white person, start being articulate and actually using rational thinking and logic and real arguments, if you start being intelligent, they literally call you a coon. You're not black to them. They believe like you've joined a different group, and it's no longer you're no longer part of the family. They can excommunicate you pretty much. It's the most racist group of people on the planet at the time, and unfortunately something's got to give. And you know, if it comes to that in America, it will be a genocide of probably that group, because Asians identify with white people and Hispanics are in between. So they really don't have enough support, especially from Hispanics, because Hispanics, even though the liberals have tried brainwashing them the way that they have the blacks, it's not working for one simple reason. Latinos are pro-nuclear family. They love family. And that is a huge, huge benefit. As long as they love their families and just have a level freaking head and don't have 77+% of their children out of wedlock like black people, then everything's gonna be okay. So, you know, it starts sounding very racist and such, but I'm talking about real statistics that have been proven and some sad news that has to be shared. And these are just potential realities that could be facing us in the near future. So God bless the South Afrikaners. I really hope the best for them, but I don't know what's going to happen, and I can only hope for the best. Anyways, this is Destination Truth. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.